G'day and welcome to the Investor Motivation Podcast. My name's Robert Gowdy and I've got the awesomeness Amy Lehman with me.
Wow, that is a big compliment. Thanks, Rob.
You're welcome. And welcome to everyone that's tuning in. And today we're going to have a bit of a conversation around what are the biggest financial mistakes that people make before retirement. Now, before retirement's a pretty long time.
Yeah, it is.
So that could be 30, 40 years before retirement is what we're talking about, not just the short term.
Yeah.
But
we'll cover off on a little bit of both. So the immediate before retirement, because we know people's outlook changes about their finances quite significantly as they do approach retirement, and the understanding that they're actually not going to be employed and earning income. I think that does change the way a lot of clients think about their money.
Yeah, they can definitely go in from a psychological point of view, go into hunker down mode or conservative mode, or I've got to this amount of money, I've got to change the way I invest and go, I suppose, go along with what a lot of the super funds do, which is that life cycle investing, which we're not big fans of.
Hence the shutter.
Yeah, the shutter.
Well, and even from a spending point of view, a lot of people live comfortably while they're working because they have that safety net of their employment income, and then they do hunker down not only in the investment sense but on the spending sense when sometimes they don't need to. So there are lots of different ways to think about this podcast topic, I think. Yeah.
Excellent. So, Amy, let's have a conversation around what retirement spending looks like. And there's the AFCA standard. Can you give that a bit of an explanation for everyone, please?
So ASFA, Australian Association of Financial Standards, they do a retirement, comfortable and modest spending levels for retirees in the first half of their retirement, which is 65 to 80. 80, I think. Ish. And then they do a second half of spending from 80 to life expectancy 95-ish, knowing that we do spend a lot less as we get older and spend more time at home and in bed. But the comfortable retirement for a couple is around that $75,000 mark. And then you look at the modest, the comfortable spending is quite comfortable. You're not worried about heating and cooling. You're not worried about eating out or traveling. You can do all those really leisurely things. So it's kind of a bit of a maintaining lifestyle all the way through from working to retirement. Otherwise, you've got the modest figures. So for a couple, those modest figures are about $33,000.
Okay, and that's for a single. For a single,
okay. 33, and then a couple is 47 and a half.
Which both those numbers are just above the full age pension.
Yeah.
Yep. So if you can live off as a single 33 grand, and this all assumes that you own your home.
Yes.
And have no repayments. Yep. So if you can live off as a couple around that sort of 47 or 33 as a single, it can work for the couples, but it doesn't work as well for the singles in practice from what we've seen.
No, especially when you're looking at just age pension amounts that they receive. So, when you are thinking about mistakes people make leading up to retirement, that would mean you haven't saved enough to have any superannuation to really live off for the long term, and you are only reliant on the age pension. The age pension for a single person is only $29,500 a year, but the modest requirement is 33. Then there is that shortfall. With this couple, there's still a little bit of a shortfall, so you'd get about $45,000 a year as a couple, and you need that 47.5.
So it does mean that if people have very modest living, and it's at 47 for a couple, and someone can get by on 35 as a single, you don't need to save a lot.
No.
For retirement, and the AFCA standard sort of explains that to meet those numbers, those lower numbers, you actually don't need much.
No, but like I said, that's being well aware you'll be going into retirement not having all of the luxuries. Yeah,
and really no flexibility to say I'm going to spend $5,000 on this holiday or $10,000 on this trip or anything like it. It doesn't afford that.
No.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, and I suppose to get to those higher levels, then obviously that's where we've got to build up money and talk about the before part of retirement.
Yep, so that's the lifetime of hard work, but also putting enough away into super or even an investment portfolio to last.
Well, let's start in those 20s and 30s. So we're going before, not just before. So, decades prior, what are some of the main things that people should consider there?
Yeah, well, right now we're lucky if you're thinking about being a 20 to 30-year-old that we've got the super guarantee. So this is different as well for the older generation that didn't have this.
Yep.
But at the moment, that would be making sure those employer contributions are going in, and also salary sacrificing.
Cool. All right. So you do a little bit of salary sacrifice. Obviously, you don't put all your money into that one spot because you can't touch it for a long time.
No, yeah.
And you can't spend it now and get that balance, work-life balance in save and spend balance.
Yeah.
The present. But you can also save outside of super in case you also want to retire early.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. And that is a big thing these days, retiring early. But yeah.
Yeah. So, and the reason why we're mentioning the before, as in 20s and 30s and 40s, is because of compounding interest.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So, what was it? The
seventh wonder of the world.
Yeah. Yep. So, essentially, compounding interest is earning income on the income that you've already earned.
Yep.
Interest on your interest, and it is, I said, it is extreme. And this is why the earlier you start doing this, the better off you are. And that's where I've spoken to clients that they have these impressive super balances when they walk into our room or we catch up online. They started really early, and not one of them have regretted it.
No, and because they have started early, it didn't mean that they got to a point in life and then started worrying about super, because that's when you need to really cut back on lifestyle spending because you're putting so much extra into super. But you started really early and you didn't feel it throughout your whole life because it was just little dribbles in that compound over time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it doesn't have to be just super. Of course, superannuation gives you the big guaranteed tax saving day one, year one. And for the average Aussie that earns between 45 grand and $135,000, you pay with Medicare 32% compared to superannuation at
15.
Yep. So there is 17%, 17 reasons why doing something into superannuation is well worthwhile. There is no investment return that Amy or I or any investment person can say, hey, you'll make essentially guaranteed 17%.
Yeah.
But with this you can. Between the people that are on the high marginal tax rate, where it's say 135 to 190, that is a marginal tax rate of 39%, including Medicare, you save 24%. It's nearly a quarter. It's too much saving to leave it on the table.
Yeah, and it's such an easy win. I think one of the greatest things about super, even as a young person, yes, you can't touch it for X amount of years, but that allows you to also have it invested in a way that you believe in and really not even want to change that because you can't touch it for so long. You're willing to ride that volatility out. I think even with young people that have investment portfolios, and good on them for starting them, but it's really easy to just sell out when you think the market's at a high and then capitalise on those great wins, but it's no longer invested and working for you. So I'd love super.
I suppose if people make a choice to sell, you've then got to make a choice to go back in at some stage, because cash is not a long-term strategy for anyone.
No.
And I think it's worthwhile talking about home loans as well, because our home loans also affect our ability to save, because it has such a huge impact on our cash flow.
Absolutely.
And what we've been doing for clients of late, where we're actually setting the tone or the term, if you like. We're not letting the bank dictate to ourselves or our clients when that loan's been paid off.
Yeah.
So in some of the planning I did for one client, I said, right, and this was the alternate to property strategy for these people. I said, right, you are 38, we want this loan gone at 48.
Yeah.
Leaving you 12 years to get to your retirement date. What do we need to do to achieve that?
Yeah.
And when we did the numbers, he goes, oh, well, that's easy. If easy to achieve, was an extra $400 per month.
Yeah.
And it meant it just and then when we got to that age 48, and that what was 50 grand going into home loan, I said, right, let's spend 30 of that, but I'll leave 20 with you guys to go and have fun.
Yeah.
And I think that's that commitment. It's just planning, and it's constant saving over a long period of time into assets that can grow And this is where it actually doesn't need to be complex.
No, it
No.
doesn't. And sometimes it is just running the numbers, watching what happens and how it plays out, and that's a lot of assurance for people.
Yep, yeah. I think it's worth talking about, because a lot of the people that we're chatting to, there's a lot of investment properties there. There's a lot of negative gearing there, and I think this is absolutely a big mistake. Now, not all. We need to acknowledge that some people have made money out of property, but not everyone.
Yeah.
But what we're seeing is that because the cash flow draw on these very high debt levels is having a significant negative impact on cash flow, that it's stopping people getting those easy wins that we mentioned just before. Put money into super as a non-concessional, save 17%. Put money into superannuation if you're in a higher tax bracket and save 24%. Because their cash flow has been so negatively impacted by debt, it's stopping the easy wins.
Yeah.
So I think that can be a mistake.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or actually a huge mistake.
Yeah.
If 10 years rolls past and you just don't have the cash flow to put extra into super because of these investment properties and the debt that are tied to them, my hope is that they've been rewarded for the risk that they've taken on, that the value of the property has gone up.
Yeah, of course.
That's what I hope for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that obviously isn't the case with, a lot. Some people do have those amazing wins, but other people we've seen, with client appointments that we're having just don't have the growth to supplement or make it worthwhile to be negatively geared where your income is going towards debt.
Yes, yeah. So it's a big reality that that we're seeing, and this is there is opportunity cost with this, where people have been there for a decade and seen all but no growth, but been negatively geared along the way, with the perception that I'm saving tax, so it means it's good. Spending 20, losing $20 grand to save $7,000 is not an investment strategy, but for some reason in Australia it is.
Yeah.
Cool. That's enough of me ranting on about property.
Well, no, this is
got a bit more?
Different slant, but another mistake people can make before leading up to retirement, not investment property wise, but even just their home. People, and we say this all the time, but buy the cheapest car your ego can afford. Similar to a home, people obviously value their home. It's you should love where you live, but if you are going to put yourself into an exorbitant amount of debt in your mid-20s, it's going to take you that full 30-year time sometimes. Especially we saw that during COVID times when the rates were so low, when people just borrowed the maximum they could afford. Those people really, really struggled, and we had all that mortgage stress, and that lasts a very long time. So it's just living within your means early on in life, and that can set you well and truly further ahead in life. Yeah,
and obviously this is, I suppose, the before discussion that, when you turn 18 you buy a car, and we see it here, in our small country town where, the young guys are driving the near new Ford Rangers, Wildcats, and you just know that there is 20 to 30 to 40 grand debt, and it's just stopping their ability to then save the deposit. To save the deposit as large as possible, to keep the debt down, and then in addition to a larger deposit, which keeps debt lower, being more modest in terms of what you buy. Now, obviously, where people live is very much a personal thing, but the downside to risk, of high debt levels and mortgage stress is stress. Financial and personal and relationship. You'd much prefer to be in a smaller, more modest home. Now, if people have more money they can jump over, buy the house that you're most comfortable with and that doesn't affect your retirement. Go your hardest. That is very much a personal thing. But if you do want to give yourself freedom and choice around, it's going to take free cash flow. Your house won't help you.
No, understand your priorities. Even if you do want to love where you live, make sure that you are buying a house that's true to what you actually want and not trying to keep up with the Joneses or anybody else. So,
and I suppose for yourself and Cody, you've had great joy in being modest in terms of your home, and renovation has been an amazing fun thing. Life experience. That's obviously a very personal thing. Other people don't want to renovate and just want to buy the completely done house. We, I guess, prioritise travel and experiences as well. So we bought the really modest home, and
like to do our travel overseas as frequently as possible.
Fantastic. Very good. All right, what's next?
Well, it's probably also worth just mentioning, because I found this statistic and I thought it was rather large, but the government each year obviously set a budget around how much money they put towards welfare,
Yep.
which the age pension falls into that category. And the most recent stat I could find was from financial year 2022, but 41% of the welfare allocation was put towards the age pension at the time, which was approximately $51.1 billion. And
Wow,
yeah, it's a stark number.
that is
And when you think about
staggering.
that number, you know, obviously being allocated to other areas and how much that can value societies is huge. But yeah, also that people are not putting in the right practices early in life to not have to rely on the age pension. Yeah.
And yeah, I do. I think the age pension is, for a couple, and the assets test thresholds are quite generous.
Yes, they are.
Can our economy support that longer term? And obviously, this is where Labor back in the early 90s said, right, superannuation, compulsory superannuation is what we need
Yeah.
to get us through to be less reliant on that number.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, that's going to take time to wash through. So even when I first started work, there was not compulsory super, and when it came in, I don't think I got paid, and no one was there to police it.
Yeah.
So there was a slower start.
Yeah.
For myself, it was probably only when I got to mid-20s where actually it was being paid the proper superannuation as I should have.
Yeah. And back then it would have been what percentage?
Oh, gee, possibly 5 or 6%.
Yeah.
And next financial year it rolls into 12%, which is really significant.
Absolutely.
But does that mean that you don't need to do anything yourself? And it depends on what your goals and objectives are in retirement.
Yeah, and how much fun you want to have, and how much you want to spend in retirement.
Yeah, and I do correlate. I do think that the amount of cash flow and income does correlate to the amount of fun that you can have.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, in terms of experiences and choice.
Yes.
Yep. Cool. So, but this is where people need to run the numbers. You need to run you need to do the projections. X amount of money going to super, X amount of money going to non-super.
Yep.
What does that look like after 10 years, 15 years of saving and invested in the right area?
Yeah.
Because returns matter, Amy, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And it can even be super motivating if you just run that calculator, just a compound interest calculator. If you're putting $200 a week into super or an investment portfolio, run the numbers with an 8% return, and then run the numbers with a 4% return.
Right. Have you done that?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Let's
love doing it.
Let's have a look at the numbers and the differences between the two.
I was going to save this for the next podcast, but I'll bring it out now.
Oh, okay. Sorry. They can cross over.
So if you're, say I did this for a 25-year-old. If you're 25 years old, you've already been working for a little bit. We'll assume you've got $40,000 in super at the moment. You've got another 35 years to go until you're 60 and you can access that super. If you put $230 away a week, now this is including your employer contributions that are going in, and you are in that 8% return scenario, by the time you're 60, you'll have $2.9 million in super, and you will have only contributed $418,600.
Yep.
Physically putting that money in there. The rest of that, 2.5 approximately, is interest, compound interest.
Yep.
It's amazing figures.
And the 4% number?
And the 4% number, I did not...
Is less attractive. So...
is much less attractive.
Yeah, when we say over 35 years, we are talking... we are talking hundreds of thousands of dollars less. But this is where it's... when we project, and if people have seen some of our socials, we're always projecting. We just see it as key to the process.
Yeah.
Did you have a figure on starting 10 years later? Was that the second one?
I've got one starting at 0 and having 10 years less of a time frame, but...
Yep.
So if you, for fun, we'll do it.
Or I suppose comparison to the original one.
Yep, so if you've got no money in super at the moment and you only put in $150 a week for 25 years, so that's 10 years less and starting at zero.
Yes.
And $150 a week instead of $250.
Okay.
Same return of 8% though. In 25 years, you'll have $620,000 and you would have put $195,000 in, but the interest is only $423. So that's
cool. But
having that compounding on that initial $40,000 with an extra 10 years
is huge.
Is huge. 618 to 2.9.
Yeah, because doing something is better than doing nothing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So, you know, when you've got your employers putting in, you could do a bit extra. You can do some non-super if you choose. If you, you know, to get that balance right, and also making sure there's enough money to have fun now. Let's talk about as people get closer to retirement and what the super funds want us to do when we tick over 50 or 55 and then 60 with regards to asset allocation, Amy.
Yep, so like we mentioned at the start, that life cycle investing, I encourage anyone that's listening to this podcast to jump on their superannuation app on their phone or log in and check if you are in a life cycle option, because that means the older you get, the more conservatively they invest your money.
So you hit a milestone, 50 or 60, and they'll take you from growth to balance and then balance to conservative. And so you're just putting more of the conservative cash fixed interest type investments.
Yeah.
And less of the growth.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is what people intuitively also feel, but when you educate yourself around your investment time horizon still in front of you, if it's 60 years old, hopefully you're living to 90.
Yes.
It's another 30 years.
Yeah.
It's a long, long time.
And our investment mentor, Peter Thornhill, I think has put that risk really beautifully, that if you're going to be exceedingly exceedingly conservatively invested through retirement, you better die quick.
Yeah.
Because it's just not going to last. And I've seen it in practice where we've invested for clients, this is 15, 20 years ago, where it has been, predominantly growth, as per their risk profile, but a good amount of money that's invested where it can grow.
Yeah. And
they've lived off it, and the money has, over 15 years, received their pensions, and the money's actually grown from where it was.
Yeah.
So that's happened in hindsight. There's no guarantee that will translate in the future, but I will back human endeavour and businesses to do exceedingly well over the long term.
Yeah, and just on that, this one I do have an 8% and 4% return scenario.
Oh, lovely.
So this is if it's $1 million, but let's say you're a couple, you've got 500,000 each, or a single with $1 million. So you've got $1 million at 60, 8% return per annum, and you're taking out 73 grand a year. Mm-hmm. Inflation's at 2.5, which is fairly in line with history. Your funds will last you 26 years, and like I said, this isn't including any Centrelink or anything. It's purely just drawing down on your $1 million, 73,000 a year. So 26 years, that's pretty good.
Yep.
If instead you get 4% instead of 8% returns because you've switched into the conservative or left the lifestyle, let it happen, your funds only last 16 years. So that's 10 years of life you don't get to receive that 73 grand a year for.
Yep. So hence the die quick.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So I think asset allocation is key. Mm-hmm. So leading up to retirement, how much you put in dictates what your end result plus the way you're invested, and in retirement how much you draw out and how you are invested dictates your return.
Yep.
But as always, project. You need to know some of these numbers, and this is where clarity can really be found with tailored projections for people, which is cornerstone and those aha moments that our clients really value.
Yeah. And like I said at the beginning as well, there is a flip side to it of, if that drawdown amount, if you wanted to be conservative because you got nervous that you're not employed and receiving income that way, and you hunkered down and spent a lot less, but you didn't run the numbers and you die with that $1 million because you could have spent more, then that's definitely the other side of the coin where people do, approach retirement and hunker down when they shouldn't.
Yep, fantastic.
Get on a cruise and have fun.
Yeah, knowing when to spend your money. Yep, and this is where the projections work. Yep. Very good. All right, I think we've done enough on this one. So asset allocation, start early.
Yep.
Plan to have your home loan paid off at a particular time that gives you room to save a bit more, plus have some fun while you're young and fit enough to do so. It's not all about retirement.
No.
some of the key things.
Absolutely.
So asset allocation is key, savings habit, starting early,
Lower the debt.
Yep, get rid of debt. And it doesn't have to be a debt-driven strategy, and that's probably the thing that we're just seeing a lot of at the moment, that all the strategies seem to be centred around tax outcomes, creating losses to create deductibility, and that is having an impact on people. So please get balanced and unconflicted advice with regards to that.
Yeah.
Yep. Sounds good.
And stay invested. Don't go to cash.
Yeah, understand, and this is where some of the best research you can do can be around investor psychology.
Yeah.
We know that share markets on average, and the US markets, I think over 30 years is 12% return. It's an extraordinary return, but it's not a straight line of 12%.
No.
It is plus 30, negative 20, and everything in between.
Yeah.
That's how it works, because share markets are liquid. We can trade in and out every day, and therefore you get human emotions, greed and fear baked in that day, every day.
Yeah.
That's what keeps people scared of the markets and gives us, the people that understand,
Opportunity.
correct.
You're waiting for me to finish your sentence, mate, yeah.
Always. Cool.
All right, everybody, I think that's it for today.
Awesome.
If anyone has any topics that would like us to cover, or even scenarios, please send them through and we will do that in a general fashion.
Lovely. And people can catch up with you on the Wealth Diaries at Instagram and also TikTok.
Yeah.
And I'm Rob Gowdy pretty well. There's on TikTok and Instagram as well.
Yeah.
And our YouTube channel is Investor Motivation, and we now have well over 700 videos that have gone up over the last 12 years. It's been 12, 13 years, an awesome labour of love.
Brilliant.
Cool. Thanks, Amy.
Thanks
for
everybody.
listening.
Bye.
Cheers.